folks. As I was introduced, my name is Dan Selbie. I head up DFO's Lakes Research Program in the Science Branch. The modern genesis of that program actually has pretty strong ties to enhancement, as folks like Don McKinley will tell you. Through the 80s and 90s, the Lakes Enrichment Program, which was a progenitor program to ours, was tightly tied to SEP. And I'm going to continue the mantra of change. I think in my take-home messages that Dave started, and hopefully be able to map it back to some positive outcomes for enhanced sort of collaboration between SEP and science again, or enhancement in science. So as was alluded to, I'm going to be focusing mainly on the lake breeding phase of sockeye salmon. Overwhelmingly, that's the life history, as you heard in the first talk. For sockeye salmon, we know a lot now because of those SEP science days about how that feeds back to productivity. Anyway, just so scientists love to feather their own beds, but I'm going to start by saying we're transitioning into an era of extreme change, which is sort of mapped over top of extreme life history variation and complexity. There is need for adaptation. A number of stocks will not do so well under future climates and future scenarios and ongoing changes. But I think, as I outlined in the beginning here, there's opportunity for enhancement efforts, be that either supplementation of populations or enhancement of lake ecosystems or management, frankly, of lake ecosystems. This is a crowd I don't really need to show the slide to, but I did want to reiterate Mike Bradford's 95 paper, which I think was something we've lost touch on in government departments, and that's that freshwater contributes an awful lot to overall stock productivity. So summing up the sort of major sort of productive capacity constraints on producing sockeye salmon in freshwater, of course there's spawning limitation. We can do a lot of things about that, building channels and the like, enhancing spawning habitat, breeding limitation, which has been sort of the focus of our program for over 35 years. That's the physical, chemical, and biological ecosystem dynamics in the lakes, which then feed back through trophic mechanisms, ecological structure and function to the growth and survival of sockeye salmon. Competition and predation are certainly important. Competition with kokanee or other planktivores within food webs, and we do see in some systems build-up predator populations potentially being an issue. I think one of the emerging things that we're not considering, or perhaps don't have the data to support it, are phenological shifts. You heard Dave talk about changes in river temperatures and how that might be affecting migration physiology and survival. I think it's also having strong influences on emergence, on migration of juveniles. For instance, in 2015, we started running a smolt trap in the Lower Fraser. In 2015, a period where there was a pronounced overwinter warming, when we were dealing with a mine disaster on Quesnel Lake, we observed many juveniles, deep zeros, out in the water column in March in Quesnel Lake. And that is not necessarily a normal situation, and it doesn't necessarily connote positive survival for those fish swimming out to sea. So they were found emigrating in large quantities in that Lower Fraser trap. And my colleague Ed Schindler is quite famous in Alaska for talking about these food web mismatch scenarios in freshwater. They're also being observed in the marine environment. This is largely being driven by climate change. So the traditional paradigm in sort of trophic ecology is this bottom-up, top-down forcing. In reality, it's both. Nutrient stimulation percolates up through food webs to drive growth and survival in fish. And at higher densities, fish tend to overcrop food webs in their nursery ecosystems, and that has potentially cascading effects on growth and survival. But the situation, as I mentioned, is much more complex than that. Lakes, whereas our focus in the past has largely been on how lakes interact, endogenously or within the lake itself, autochtonously rather. They're also products of the watersheds in which they're found. That. They're tightly coupled to regional processes, particularly in this neck of the woods where we have large interannual and decadal climate fluctuations. They're completely naturally driven and do seem to have large influences on salmon survival, both in freshwater and marine environment. And global processes. Climate change is one I've mentioned so far. We have umpteen global processes going on. We have no understanding of how they map down to salmon growth and survival in freshwater or in the marine environment, such as global nitrogen deposition. There are a number of key endogenous forcings or population internal forcings, such as marine-derived nutrients and how they may feed back to ecosystem productivity. My colleague Dan Schuler is famous for saying there's no evidence for feedback on actual survival or production in salmon, and we can certainly map it with isotopes. We know, those nutrients do deliver up into the higher trophic levels and into sockeye, but we don't truly understand what those mechanisms are, and I would argue they're not always positive. Density dependence, of course, is an old concept. It's still very much alive in what we see emerging in the Fraser system as we observe very large escapements starting to return to that system. We can borrow a lot of information from our colleagues in Alaska on that. Something we may be also experiencing now, which there was a beautiful review by Clark et al. In 2007 for the Alaskan systems, particularly in the Fraser, we're starting to see systems that start to fit Larkin models better than they do for Ricker. And delayed density dependence has been sort of pointed to as one of the underpinnings of the collapse of the Quesnel stock, and it may be happening in other systems where we're not necessarily understanding the mechanisms or paying attention. And there are other key exogenous forcings, of course, these climate variables and the climate change. These are tightly coupled with lake ecosystems. Lakes are largely driven by their external climatic environment, as well as, of course, nutrient stimulation. And that's called temperature and precipitation. That manifests different spatially in temperature. Watershed and airshed modifications, we're seeing this in the lower mainland. A lot of those systems like Cultus Lake, which supports an endangered run, my lab is right next door, is seeing massive effects of eutrophication from changes in the landscape and how it's affecting the ability of the lake to support fish. And then of course things like intra and interspecific competition and disease, which I won't get into too much today. But one take-home message here is what happens in freshwater, unlike Vegas, does not stay in freshwater. In fact, these interstage effects that Dave talked about, we're starting to study, and they may be hugely influential on subsequent breed survival. In 2009, we did a bit of a summary paper looking at sort of the watershed and lake attributes of sockeye salmon around the North Pacific. And what I found was so astounding is the range of variability. Each one of these bar charts represents an area, so interior BC, coastal BC, southeast Alaska, central Alaska, and southwest Alaska. And you can see for any given parameter, such as escapement or loading the fish to the lake, changes in the spring linology in terms of limiting nutrient concentrations, precipitation, actual watershed attributes, they vary so greatly. And so why would we expect that common responses would occur in a given system to that common driver like climate change? It's going to result in very complex interactions which require a fair amount of study to figure out and to mitigate. So, to borrow a phrase from a recent aloof Nobel laureate, the times are changing, and spend the rest of my talk showing you some of the challenges we're experiencing in Canadian freshwaters as it pertains to sockeye salmon. So, my predecessor in my role, Ken Shortreed, was sort of told me when I arrived, hey Dan, we can go into the lake, we can look at it, for maybe a year or two, develop our photosynthetic rate models, and then we can say, that's good for another 10 years or so, and we'll go back. Well, we did that, and all I find now is change. I mean, it's stimulating, it's very positive. I think I'll be employed for the remainder of my career, but we are seeing massive changes in freshwater that are almost certainly feeding back to sockeye production. So the big three, Quesnel, Chilko, and Shuswap, constitute anywhere from 20 to 90% of the production of sockeye salmon in the Fraser. And you can see these are just photosynthetic rates across the time window from 1980 to 2015 in those lakes. Photosynthetic rates are kind of the basal metabolism of the ecosystem, how productive the primary producers are and how they can translate at least functionally energy up to the higher trophic levels like sockeye. And you can see all these ecosystems, we're seeing some level of increase, not all for the same reasons. You'll recall the underpinning of lake enrichment, the underpinning of the euphotic volume model in the Alaskan systems, and the PR model is that the production, primary productivity strongly is coupled with fish biomass accrual, and therefore, based on things like heating, Sedal, and Ricker, bigger fish tend to do well in the marine environment. So delving a little bit deeper into the individual sort of stocks, Choco here you can see over the period of record has really shown dynamic sort of cyclicity in the earlier period, probably a lower productive capacity, yielding and potentially a strong fishery, but somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s, we started tinkering with the nutrients, and it's been shown that this likely had a positive effect on freshwater production, and that may have mapped up to the stock level. But we really, are in a new regime. When I got called in, this was like 2009, my first field season with in DFO, Dan, you gotta go up to Chilco and figure out what the hell's going on. It's producing all these fish, the escapements are rising, the smolts are very numerous coming into the system, I ain't go figure it out. So if we look at the actual survival of smolts in that system, one of the few examples in Canada where we can actually do that, there's a few in the north as well. We can see that, that kind of maps out, there's sort of reduced, sort of production or survival of juveniles in lake, and that's kind of increased, although, there's a bit of a wastage on it. Looking at the sort of next trophic level down, you can see that, the blue bars here are total zooplankton biomass. Those reference lines are the pre-fertilization sort of concentrations or biomass of zooplankton in the lake. Looks like zooplankton's increased within Choco Lake. And, if you look at the seasonal cycle, no matter where you are in the lake, you see this sort of this ramping up ontogeny to higher zooplankton biomass towards the end of the year. Sockeye are feeding heavily with great biomass, go through over winter, so you can do okay. The red bars here are Daphnia, and most of us who work in lake systems understand that that's a keystone herbivore. It translates energy very efficiently to the higher trophic levels. And Daphnia didn't exist in Choco Lake prior to fertilization. So this is both a functional and structural change which may be positive for sockeye salmon. Freshwater, another system that's been increasing in terms of its escapement to the nursery lake and therefore plankton overloadings. In 2010, we saw the record escapement ever recorded in the system. But that increase in primary productivity does not seem to be mapping over increase in freshwater survival. In fact, in this system, you can see that there seems to be a break point somewhere mid to late 80s from higher in-lake survival to lower in-lake survival, and that's the exact opposite trend of what I showed you from Choco. It may be having sort of benefits to density-dependent growth within the lake. We're experiencing much higher sort of loading densities in the system now, but looking at that break point, we see very different growth lines over similar ranges of effective female spawner loading, or therefore fry loading to the system. And if we look at the in-lake zooplankton biomass, we can see, we don't have many reference systems, the reference years, these are different areas of the lake, but you can see the total zooplankton biomass in the past seemed to be higher than it is now. You might say that's simply a density-dependent effect. But if you look, in non-dominant years now, those zooplankton aren't as in great abundance, yet the lakes are much more productive. So I'll cycle through a few of the more limnological curiosities. I slot them into that sort of bin. Cultus Lake, we've been struggling for a long time, many are aware, constraining fisheries based on issues with survival in that stock. And early on when it arrived, again, it's all in the mixed stock fishery with the shoe swap situation. I'm not so confident in that sort of early assumption. I'm sure that has something to do with it. But when we turn to the lake and we actually look at survival in multiple life stages, through this beast's existence now, back 15 years, we can see that the problems are really emerging in the lake, which have big potential to cause a problem for this thing persisting under future warming scenarios. So this is an example of some new techniques we're applying. They're not new. John Stockman was applying these in Babine in the 80s when the science was coming into vogue. This is paleolimnology. It's looking at 7 core analyses. My Alaskan colleagues are probably familiar with Bruce Finney's work on Kodiak Island and Dan Schindler's work in Southwest Alaska. But we've used this to actually not only look at the abundance of salmon returning, the relative abundance of salmon returning, but also use it to reconstruct ecosystems. So primary producers, secondary producers, how they map back to that fish production. And that sort of window of understanding is pretty important in terms of understanding how we got to where we are and what the pond dynamics are set in the context of natural variability. And so you can see, this is 1870, this is roughly 2010 when the core was taken. You can see that the actual algal production for the system is measured by inferred chlorophyll A from the sediments, or actually measured chlorophyll A from the sediments has increased. The lake is eutrophying. This is the system where Ricker happened to do his PhD. Thank you. And so we can actually use some of his historical data. This is oxygen profile from Cultus Lake. It's one of these classic clear water systems that creates a deep chlorophyll maximum. You can see now as of 2009, it was a peak of 6 or 7. More recently, we've measured 12 micrograms per liter of chlorophyll, and all this organic matter rains down on the bottom of the lake. Oh, go back. It's no going back. Never mind. The point I didn't want to make on the previous slide. Ever forward. No, it's fine. We're wasting. So in Ricker's day, we didn't see, based on oxygen evolution, that same sort of productivity. Heat productivity was there, but it wasn't as good around. And so if we look at near sediment oxygen and nutrient concentrations in Cultus Lake, BC, we can see that over the seasonal cycle, we get this evolution or absorption of, or the take-up of oxygen, almost certainly related to aerobic decomposition in deeper waters. But it's actually fairly tightly correlated with releases of things through the sediment. I say things, nutrients are one issue, but there's a whole suite of things that happen under changing redox conditions, like metals release, ammonia release. Here's evidence of toxic levels of ammonia coming out of the sediments of Cultus Lake. It's not uncommon in some lakes, but in some of these big sockeye systems, it's a bit concerning, especially when there's a conservation concern included here. And at these times of the year, with our hydroacoustics, we can't detect the difference between bottom and sockeyes. Mark Cleveland will probably talk about this a little bit more later on, but called in 2 years ago now to look at Kitwonka Lake, Kitnyao Lake, Kitwonga Lake, it's also known as. They've been having an issue with declining freshwater survival of juveniles. Produces huge smolts when they come out, but there have been some key sort of limnological changes which may be a problem here. You can see here, this is just a late summer algal composition from Kitwonga. You can see that the algal biomass in the shallow North Basin is quite high, and roughly half of it is contributed by cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria are not necessarily efficient or positive sort of food web components for translating energy to higher order organisms. It's also a system that's experiencing similar oxygen problems to Cultus, except it gets ice cover. And I think that's where we need to go next in this system. You get these warm summer temperatures. It's not unusual. This is the Gitnia's data. Through the growing window, you get this warming, thermal stratification clearly there, deep oxygen production from almost certainly from primary producers. But it's these sorts of things that emerge in the deeper zones, which may translate up through the water column as ice covers and isolates the system from the atmosphere. In some systems, that causes massive fish kills. I'll end on Babine. It's our big producer in the north. Has a storied history, very rich in data, of course. It's been showing freshwater survival declines over the period for which we actually have record. And the juveniles, as they emigrate from the lake, are actually getting quite a bit smaller. I was not prepared for what we found in Babine. It's a system that's sort of high DOC, stain, light transparency is very low, goes down, the photozone is only about 7 meters in the system. In the past, mixing zones actually were very deep in this system. They're not anymore. And through the early part of the season, when nutrient depletion is occurring, the bulk of the primary production is happening up in the top of the water column. That's now scaling back through the season. How does that translate out to salmon? We're also seeing a fundamental shift in nutrient limitation from phosphorus to nitrogen in the system. Completely unusual for these years with the data. And perhaps most concerning is what we see in terms of the changes in zooplankton. This is total zooplankton abundance in 3 different parts of the lake. What you can see is in the spring bloom period, when previously zooplankton abundance was very high, and sockeye are migrating offshore, the zooplankton aren't there and the abundance is they used to be. And these are roughly equivalent densities of juveniles. So map that up to what the consequence for a sockeye feeding in that water column might be. You can see that in the 90s, stomachs were relatively full. Now, both in summer and fall, they're about half or less the fullness of what they were. Fish are smaller going out, not feeding as efficiently, they're not getting the energy they used to. We're undertaking some work in 2016 here to try and figure that out a little bit further, hopefully applying those paleological techniques to understand how we got there, because there's a multitude of drivers which get equated with that. So, just to summarize, we are seeing change in freshwater ecosystems. It is having an influence on salmon populations, both in terms of growth and survival. They seem to be largely physically driven, related to stratification in northern systems, which I didn't talk about. Some of our research is showing that ice covers a huge player. That translates to the chemistry and biology of the system and affects top plankton boards like sockeye. I think, truthfully, we need to get back to a tight coupling of enhancement and science in this country, and hopefully in the States as well. It's not happening. I know the demise of the FRED program was a big loss, as was our salmon enhancement program, or salmon enrichment program. Let's not talk about salmon enrichment program. But I think we have several levers which we can apply to actually remedy these situations, be it the range from enhancement of juveniles all the way up to lake management. In some of those instances, in the rare cases where we're going to lose CUs if we don't pay attention, I think that's going to be pretty critical. And, because things are changing, if we don't look, we don't know. Some of my colleagues are famous for saying, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So, thank you very much.